Welcome to the Scaling Edge podcast. My name's Jav.
Mike.
And today we're doing a bit more of a reaction podcast to Stephen Bartlett's emergency debate with Daniel Priestley, and I can't remember the other guy's name. Actually, I've got it here. So let's see. What's his name again?
Episode 2 is going to be a spicy one.
Gary Stevenson. I'm sure you guys have seen Gary Stevenson. He's got like 800,000 followers. He talks about the economy and a lot of doom and gloom kind of content. But, you know, he's for the working class people, as he likes to say, and he's a trader. So I know you haven't listened to the full thing.
No.
I only listened to it like a couple of hours ago.
The whole thing?
I listened to the whole thing on the drive here to the studio. So
what's your overall?
Oh, yeah. Let
give
me.
us your overall.
Essentially, it was a debate in which they were kind of talking about two different things, because Gary Stevenson's stance is more like we need to tax the rich that are hoarding assets. Mm-hmm. So, for example, anyone that's got over 10 million, he's saying that should be taxed at least 1 to 3%. And because there's no tax on these people, or they're finding ways to, you know, they're setting up companies in Ireland or Luxembourg, they're basically getting away with it, but they're hoarding assets in the UK, like houses and stuff, which is basically driving out the working and middle class, which means that obviously because we don't have, well, a lot of the spending power of the average person has dropped dramatically, then there's no spending power basically. So that's what's kind of driving the austerity. Okay. But then Daniel Priestley, which his standpoint was more, he wasn't really debating that. It was more, Daniel Priestley was more like, okay,
doesn't make sense.
I get what you're saying, but right now, the UK is very hostile towards entrepreneurs with the tax. So what we're doing right now, the way that the UK is moving, is pushing entrepreneurs away. We've got they call it the millionaire exodus. I think it's 1,000 millionaires leave every month, or every day, every month, something like that.
Month, I think.
So that was the debate. That was the back and forth that was pretty much it for the whole thing. Yeah. Gary Stevenson didn't really let Daniel Priestley talk that much. He would kept over talking him. Yeah. But the main thing, Gary Stevenson's thing is like, if you're rich, give back to society, which I hear that. Mm-hmm. To be fair, he does say if you're making over 10 M's, then yeah, you should be. And if you're holding assets. Plus, we're getting taxed. Like, the working man is getting taxed more than the multi-millionaires.
Yeah. Okay, what you're saying.
So that's kind of his argument, which I get what he's saying, because why are middle-class families being taxed more than people that are doing multi-millions? Just because they've been able to maneuver their money to certain places. Yeah. Versus like the middle-class family or working class, they should be taxed less because they're making less. Yeah. Which I get that. I get his point. But then Daniel Priestley's like, well, it doesn't really matter anyway, because the UK is driving people away anyway.
So that was his main point. And that's what I gauged, that he was saying, okay, it doesn't traditionally work to do what you're suggesting to do, because it's hard to just, all right, cool, you're making this, because the accountants, the tax, the way the system is set up is there'll always be loopholes, there'll always be a way for someone to say, oh, my money's based there, or I'm there, or this company. And he used the example of Starbucks, right? He's like, oh, you know, you might want to charge Starbucks, you know, I don't know, 40% of every cup. And they're like, oh, sorry, like, you know, we just licensed the logo from over there, so we only make like this amount from it. So that's what he was saying. It's like, you can do it, but as you said, it just pushes the millionaires and people away, right? Successful people away.
Yeah, I think that in a society, and that's why England and America is so different, because America's got more of a free market, whereas in England it's less of a free market. So Daniel Priestley's argument, which I kind of agree with both. They're arguing almost two different points, but Daniel Priestley's argument is that, like, because of England's hostility towards entrepreneurs and people that want to make money, there's also going to become, again, a lack of wealth because no one's creating jobs. The less entrepreneurs, the less business owners, the less like visionaries, the less there's no job creation.
Yeah, of course.
If there's no job creation, then society still won't have spending power.
Yeah.
So I hear what he's saying, and then he was using Dubai as an example, as the main example, because he was saying that, like, well,
They got over 100,000 Brits living there.
Yeah.
Growing by a madness all the time. Yeah.
And they're one of the most thriving economies right now.
Without income tax, isn't it?
They're letting people enjoy their money, bro. Like, I think.
Yeah. I don't agree with the Gary guy, man. I don't agree with Gary Stevenson. I think that anytime when you're going to talk on those topics and talk so passionately, you have to, what's the whole spill? Like, don't neglect the whole spill. So you're saying, because Daniel Priestley he was more pointing fingers at the government, right?
Yeah, that's true.
But then Gary was more saying, oh, you think that they can slash the public schools more? Do you think they can slash the NHS more? Like, essentially, there's nothing to take from that. It's like, you're waffling. And that's why I feel like you sound like a plant, because why, like, you're avoiding the fact that the government, the MPs get paid a lot of money. They siphon a lot of money through taxes. You're ignoring the fact of the whole, whenever a country that we're associated with gets into, any type of conflict, we're sending over hundreds of millions, like, in a flash,
to a war that's not ours, or whatever.
To a war as if that, you know what I'm trying to say, money goes missing. Like, all right, the COVID, the lockdown, all those deals was happening.
The contracts.
All those contracts was happening. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna get it from you. COVID, literally, where is the proof that the vaccine is now, like, we're not even using it no more? Like, something can't just disappear. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it can't disappear like that. So I think that he's coming with some valid points, but he's avoided, like, a lot of things aren't being mentioned, or they're being avoided or overlooked.
Yeah.
And it doesn't ever, make sense to just say, like, all right, just tax people over 10 million. I think if you said over 100 million, then I'll say cool. But don't say over 10 million. That don't make sense. Because anyone who's into business will understand that, all right, you might be making 10 million. A lot of people actually are making 10 million, but they are making 20% profit. Do you get what I'm trying to say to you? So with 20%, because that's how some business models are. Like, not every business model is like ours or like whatever, where it's like 40% profit or 60% profit. A lot of business models are like 5% profit, 10% profit, but it's enough, because 10% profit of 10 million is $1 million. But out of that, maybe the owner might be taking home like 700,000, 800. So because somebody's worked their way up, grinded, is obviously paying a lot of bills out of that, a lot of people, employing a lot of people, you're saying that now they should lose. And then why would they not want to leave?
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm trying to say? It don't make no sense.
And the thing is, as soon as England becomes hostile to business owners, they leave anyway.
They leave
anyway.
It's already very hostile, and that's why a lot of people are leaving.
I'm
leaving. That's a fact.
Steve Butler said it.
Oh, is it?
Towards the end, he basically talked about one of his friends who had a £300 million exit, right?
Okay.
From his business. And the friend was like, "But I'm leaving. I'm gonna get a property in Monaco and Dubai, and I'm gonna just travel between the two. I'm not even gonna come back to the UK." Stephen Butler's like, "Why?" He's like, "It's actually gonna cost me 20 million
just to
stay here. That's 20 million of rent. I could just rent out 2 properties in 2 places and never come back.
Yeah.
So why would I do that?" So it makes sense, and also there was another thing about Daniel Priestley made a good point about non-dom status. So England or the UK had a change where basically you never used to get taxed on your non-dom
money
income. Yeah.
Okay.
But then now they changed it where if you're here and you make money abroad, you get taxed on that as well. So those little policies have driven people away from England anyway. And I think a big thing, is you mentioned it about the government. Again, obviously I lived in America, so I always say there's always a big difference. I think I see the difference, right? In America, it's a lot more like, they got more like a libertarian approach. They don't want too much government control. In England, it's more like
the sheep.
It's more of a sheepish mentality. Yeah, there you go, bro.
Super sheep. Yeah, it's crazy in England. And I think that's why a lot of these things happen, because they don't revolt. They don't stand up. And they don't, like, everything, is just take it how it is. They barely protest. And even when they did protest, because the last thing we protested about was, I can't even remember, man. Recently, there's some I know we had the whole thing with the Southport. Was it Southport where those killings
Oh, the
happened?
killing, yeah.
And then there was a lot of racism sparked, and then there was like back and forth protests against it. But even with that, a lot of times, and then obviously with the whole Palestine thing, that was the big protest essentially. But the government were just like blind to it.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah, cool. Like I don't think one thing was changed in that time. Like so yeah, it's techie in England, man. But I think the point that Gary guy was making was I think he landed there, and from the beginning his point was kind of like invalid, and then he was just fighting it. I need to listen to more of it, but it just sounded like you're picking on people making 10 million plus, and they are the ones leaving. Your point is actually ridiculous. It's invalid.
Yeah, to a degree. Yeah, but I hear what he's saying though. I understand what he's saying.
What about it?
Like, because his whole thing is that basically these people they're hoarding their wealth in England through assets. So that's
that property or something.
Property, and now that's not affordable for like most people. Most people can't afford houses.
But that's a different beef. That's the property beef. A lot of people have made that issue with property of like you got one person just buying 12. The property entrepreneurs,
just sit there.
And they just sit out there renting it out. They're hoarding it.
Oh, but his argument is that some of those people are like the multi-millionaires who they hoard their assets and then they piss off.
No, but really, most of them people actually stay. The only ones that really piss off, are the ones that are like, maybe they're Emiratis or they're like Russians, not anymore anyway because of whatever,
right.
And they just buy loads of property and they just leave it there, and they might even be empty. They don't even Airbnb it. You know what I'm trying to say to you? That's them. But when you see property entrepreneurs, where are they, bro? UK.
They're here, yeah. I know what you're saying. But then what about, but then like...
They don't go Dubai and start doing... I don't see that.
But then what about in London then? So who owns these properties that are in Mayfair and...
That's what I'm saying. These are the people who are like, and that's
so those particular properties you're saying?
Like, and that's been like that for years.
The average property
flipper
entrepreneur is like normal houses, inner city, countryside, boom, boom, boom. Okay.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And then they might be essential, and if they're doing it in a way where they might be renting out or whatever, they generally stay in so that they can
go back,
monitor it and see what's going on.
But then he's not trying to tax those people. He's talking about people that are doing the 10 plus million. So I think it's different.
That's why I think the numbers are incorrect. I think when he's saying they're doing the 10 million, that's what I'm saying to you. Like, it's not 10 plus million because not necessarily 10 million pounds. It's not.
Yeah.
Because when you think about doing $1 million in revenue, does that mean you're taking millions at home?
Nah.
It doesn't mean that.
Yeah.
So 10 million means you might just about be taking $1 million or so home from that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say to you?
But then there was a good point that was made about like I've lost it now. In regards to I've lost it. I think it was Daniel Priestley who said something about the baby boomers.
Yeah.
So you got to remember, like our parents' generation and our grandparents' generation, they were able to buy houses a lot cheaper in line with their wages, right? Like a man,
it was 4 times.
Right, a man could have a job at the post office, make 30 grand a year, and still buy a house.
Yeah.
He was saying that there was a statistic, and I don't know if that's still correct, but Daniel Priestley kept saying it. He was like, because my man kept banging on about the houses, he was like, well, actually, like 70+% of the house ownership is in the baby boomer generation. So they actually hold most of the wealth because they could afford houses.
Yeah.
So they still own these houses.
And they pass down.
Right.
They do this with it, yeah.
And obviously, they get inheritance tax.
And they're the ones selling it at the high prices
right.
now because they're like, oh yeah, why not? I got it for 15K back in the days, but
right.
Now I want 500 for it.
Yeah, exactly. So he was saying that, he was basically saying like, I get your point, but like the baby boomers are the ones that own the houses.
That's what I'm saying.
Like majority of the like average houses, like the average person.
Yeah.
So he was like, well, what's your argument there? So it's a nuanced one, but so that we don't ramble on too much. Obviously, you said you're leaving, yeah?
Yeah.
But here's a question for you. Bro. I want to talk specifically about one of the kind of glaring statistics about like, why do you think, I know I probably got a rough idea what you're going to say, but why do you think that 1,000 millionaires are leaving the UK every month or every day. Let me just chat GPT that real quick. Answer the question while I while I double check that statistic.
Yeah, I think it boils down to what I said already, where we feel that when somebody has the status a millionaire, they've made it, they are rich, they are never gonna run into any issues, right? And that's wrong. That's wrong to say. Okay, you have to look at the context of money. There's a difference between a millionaire and a decamillionaire, right? We both probably know more millionaires than we realize, because a millionaire, by its technical definition, means you have £1 million in assets, right? So if your house is worth 300,000, 400,000, your car's worth 30,000, you got this injury. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Do you see how quickly the average person can actually become
A
millionaire,
yeah.
right? And it doesn't mean that they've made it. I'll give you another example, yeah? Tory Lanez, this is random, but Tory Lanez, one of my, artists that I enjoyed listening to, right? And I still do.
Side eye.
What? Because he apparently shot my girl in the foot. I don't know if he did that. I don't know. Anyway, but listen. So he made a lot of money, right? He crossed all those boundaries in terms of all the platinum sales and all gold and millions. So you're talking about someone that probably definitely a decamillionaire, right? I literally listened to his album yesterday, talking about he had to, like, Chris Brown had to give him 250 grand for his appeal money. He literally went that, like, a part of it was didn't have access to some funds or whatever, but he literally, someone from being having that much money was able, like, do you get what I mean? So life changes, like, so you have to look at the numbers. And I think when you get into business, you start realizing that, okay, someone's doing 7-figure revenue. It doesn't necessarily mean that they just got 7 figures. Someone's a millionaire. It doesn't mean they got £1 million in their bank sitting. And you understand what I'm trying to say to you? So, most people are trying to create wealth, financial freedom, generational wealth. And the UK just doesn't make it easy to do, or not even easy. Yeah. Like we don't need it easy, but it makes it harder than needed to do that.
But what's more important, wealth or like liquid cash? You can have wealth both. And assets, right?
Yeah, I think both, because when you say like wealth, right, it's subjective. It's subjective because anything can happen, the world can change. So it's like if everything crashes, all right, cool, you got property, but then you can't. If everything crashes and you got property, you're probably gonna go live in the property. Do you know what I'm trying to say to
you?
Yeah. Unless you got multiple, then you might get people to live in there. But then still, you haven't got what are you gonna use to maneuver and to, get things and exchange for things as well. So I think it is important to have a mixture of both. Like, it's a good question. Essentially, wealth is going to be a mixture of assets and liquid cash as well. So yeah, people are trying to generate that. It doesn't make it. It makes it extra harder than need be to do that, and yeah, that's why.
And this relates to what I just said. Yeah, so due to changes in tax policies in 2024, the UK experienced a net loss of 10,800 millionaires, marking 157% increase compared to 2023.
Mad.
This significant outflow places UK second only to China in terms of wealthy residents leaving. And remember, China's population is way bigger than us.
Yeah, cool.
The primary catalyst for this exodus has been Labour's government's overhaul of the non-dom tax regime. The thing I just mentioned about they can tax your foreign income. So they know now, if I'm making money abroad, why would I want to be here? It don't make sense, because you might have been thinking, I make money abroad, I'm cool, I ain't even got to pay tax on that. Now they're taxing everything. Why would you want to be a resident here as a business owner?
It's crazy.
It's hard.
And it's the corruption, man. The corruption part is upsetting, because it's like, man, it's England, and as many economies and countries are built on a lot of corruption, a lot of like ruining and ravaging different societies and stuff like that. But you're continuing the corruption in the modern day, that's why I really don't agree with the Gary Stevenson guy, because you're talking shit. Because listen, you can solve that issue by just saying, all right, everyone pay £100, not even £100. Everyone pay a subscription, right? Based on what they're sort of making, right? The same sort of relativity to what they're kind of making. So it might be you pay 1% of your wealth a month. Do you get what I mean? So do 1% of your wealth a month, you're gonna you get the millionaires or whatever, they're putting in 10,000 whatever. The non-so whatever people, someone might be putting £10, someone might put £5. But if you did that and the pot accumulated, then you're gonna have money. Do you get what I'm trying to say to you? So it's more about what's being done with that money. It's more about what's being how's that being handled.
You don't get saying that though. And that's I remember there's a J. Cole song, and he says it in the song like, why can't I choose where my taxes go, basically.
You know what I'm saying?
He's like, why can't I choose? And then just to round up, sticking with this exodus of millionaires, yeah? So looking ahead, projections indicate that the UK could lose up to 20% of its millionaire population by 2028, with the share of residents who are millionaires expected to decrease from 4.5% to 3.6% by the time we get to 2028, right? And the biggest concern or the biggest worry about that is, although the non-dom tax thing is expected to generate 2.5 billion over 5 years, analysts suggest that the outcome may be a net loss in revenue due to the exodus of all the high net worth individuals.
Of course.
So,
and their businesses as well. You ain't even counting the businesses that are gonna actually say, we're not operating.
We're done. We're not operating here. So
crazy.
I think the UK is in a crossroad. You're leaving.
You're leaving, bro. Yeah,
I'm definitely leaving, bro. I ain't staying here, bro. Like I'm trying to leave very soon.
Yeah. But it's sad, man, because it's like not everyone can even do that. Bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the part. It's not everyone can do that.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you know what I mean? So
it's not within everybody's.
What's the solution, man?
Boy, I think that, and this is the thing. I'm wary of saying to everybody, just go build a business, because not everyone's built to build a business, innit? Some people, they better at being employed and told what to do. Mm-hmm. So I think if I had a little brother, which I don't, but if I did, I'd say to him, yo, learn some skills that can make your job remote, so that you have your...
But if everyone cuts...
I know, but...
The problem with everyone cuts is that now these countries can start saying and moving a bit.
Yeah, but...
Listen, you lot need us now. So.
Yeah, it's true.
Right, cool.
And power corrupts people. Right? But if I had a little brother, bro, that's what I tell him. I tell him, yo, learn a skill that allows you to work remotely. Yeah. Marketing, tech, something like that. Yeah. Or you can have like a physical skill, like a trader skill, but do it abroad. Bro, if you do that skill in Dubai, you're going to make money. If you do that skill in Saudi Arabia, you probably still make money. Even if it's a traditional skill, which everyone still needs. Everyone still needs electricians, plumbers, roofers. Like, we need those people, bro. Yeah. Like, our society is built, a lot of it is on those type of skills. There's people that do that. There's multi-millionaires that do that, bro. Especially even in America. When I lived in America, bro, electricians make money over there. Yeah. So, I think, you just get a skill, bro. Get good at something. That's really what it is.
Because they will learn. They will know, they will learn, I think at the end of the day, they're just being corrupt as always. They're just siphoning money for themselves, making sure they're good, doing all this stuff. Probably part of a whatever plan, but where there's good, where there's evil, there's good. Where there's good, there's evil, whatever, right? It's always gonna balance itself out. The evil can never just continue to win, right? So it will fall back to where they realize, oh shit, we fucked up the economy. Yeah. They're gonna revert back and start fixing it. But you don't want to have to just sit and coast through that whole thing. Yeah. And that's why you want to be able to kind of maneuver around, man. Yeah.
And just to round up, a good point that was made within that podcast episode was we're going to see over the next 5 years America versus the UK. Because the UK is more hands-on government. The government's a lot more involved in our life, versus in America, it's a lot more of a libertarian approach where they're a bit more hands-off. It's a bit more free market over there. Yes, they have taxes, but it's state to state as well. Plus, you've got federal tax. But Like they're they're a lot more hands off than the UK, so to speak. So we're going to see who's right, who's wrong, or not who's right, who's wrong, but who's better. What system works better? We're going to see. Only time will tell. I have an inkling, and I'm not a Donald Trump fan or anything, but I got an inkling that their system's going to be better.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Donald is a bit tricky, man.
We'll see.
He's doing all sorts of stuff, so he's got good part. He's got, but
we'll see. He's got Elon Musk next to him.
Yeah.
Like, I got a feeling, like for the average man and woman, their life's going to be better over there. It already is better over there. They make more money than us.
They do, yeah, way more. Yeah,
their income's better than us. Their economy's been growing more than us.
They've got the top businesses in the world. Their economy is rocked right now because of all the tariffs and tensions that he's creating. But we'll just have to see on that note. But economy-wise, it's so tricky, man. It's so tricky. I think, listen, I'm going to round up on a point, you know, like a few years ago I heard a saying that, or someone explained that they're trying to eradicate the middle class. Yeah. Right? They said a long time ago, and there's going to be like huge wealth and then like
people
poverty. And the poverty-wise is probably going to be through like some sort of universal allowance, which they already have actually sneakily tried to implement. And I think it's so important for us to build amazing wealth. That's what this whole AI thing's about. It's like you got to use it. You can't be scared. You've got to really latch on and go make your millions so that you can, you know, move around. So I think that'll be one of the last things that, you know, Africa is going to turn to like a booming economy. All these different places, you know what I mean? Like there's going to be places all over the world who have leadership that, you know what I mean? So I think that's the goal. Everybody build wealth. Don't be fearless in your pursuit of that.
Facts.
And go get it, man. Because yeah, they definitely want to just crush you and leave you on the floor. You know what I mean? That's what they want, but don't let them win.
We ain't gonna let them win, man. All right. That's the Scaling Edge podcast. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. If you need help with your business, there is a link in the description with a free training that shows you step by step how we implement ads, paid advertising content to build your business and brand, so you don't get left behind. You know. All right. Peace.